Hola, Sandman Nation. It is getting chilly out there in most parts of the United States, but as long as we have Pat with us as our co host, it will always be hot on this podcast. So let's get to it. It is time to enter Sandman Sports. As mentioned, and as always, I am here with my co host, Pat Klett. Pat is just one good dude. And because of that, I'm not even going to poke fun at him today in the opening because his Viking season came to an end on Monday, and that type of ending is never happy. So I will just say, great season by your Vikes, my friend. And next year you will have Michigan man JJ McCarthy calling the shots. So you'll be in good shape for years to come there. And then there's Bill Sanders, the one and only Sandman. Unlike the Vikings, Bill never disappoints anyone. Well, maybe a few ex-girlfriends back in college, but we'll save those stories for another time. Before we get into the show, let's tell everyone where they can find us. Sandman listeners, you can find us everywhere, just like playoff losses on Mike Tomlin's resume. You can find us on Instagram at Enter Sandman Sports. Visit our website at entersandmansports.com, where lots of exciting changes are taking place. So check it out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Enter Sandman Sports and follow us on Facebook at Enter Sandman Sports. All right, boys. Well, before we get into the opening, I got to say I had an incredibly great weekend. Why, you ask? Because I got to hang with the Sandman himself. Oh, yeah, that's right. Bill and our other business partner, Craig, came to visit me in Cincinnati for a working weekend, and it was freaking awesome. We worked our asses off.
I couldn't make it. I couldn't make it.
No, yeah. We waited at the airport for hours for you, but you never showed. That's coming up soon, dude. The deal that's going to pay off here soon. Don't worry.
Okay.
Now we worked our asses off. Very excited about the future of Sandman Sports, but we also had a ton of fun. So, Bill, just want to say thanks for making the trek over to the Queen City, and it is great being partners with you, my friend.
Yeah, right back at you, buddy. Great job hosting and super exciting.
Yeah.
Great weekend.
Yes, it was. All right. Well, believe it or not, we are now up to our 22nd episode. Last week, we celebrated our 21st by paying homage to Las Vegas since we are now officially legal. The focus was primarily around gambling, but you also get to legally drink at 21. So I thought we'd open this episode by talking a little about our favorite go-to alcoholic drinks. So I got to know, boys, what are your go-to drinks? Do you like craft beers, fancy wine, the hard stuff? So basically, just lay it on me. What are some of your favorite drinks? Are there any hidden gems that you would recommend to our listeners? And if you want to share any fun best drunk stories that you have, we're all ears on that too. So Pat, why don't you start us off?
Well, you got me thinking about my career as a drinker. I started drinking at 16 when I was up in Duluth, Minnesota at my brother's wedding. I had my first beer ever was a PBR, and about halfway through I was bombed. I was probably 100. I probably weighed 100 pounds. And I never looked back. It was fantastic. I don't drink a ton during the week. I'm not like a big casual drinker, but when I drink, I go hard and get after it. So my go-to is usually start with like a Summit EPA. That's more of a Minnesota beer. It's a darker beer. And then kind of ease off into the lighter beers like a Coors or a PBR. But yeah, I like a little wine when it's cold, or Crown Royal. From the Crown Round, that got me on Crown. I don't know, yeah. Bill. The Crown Round is a golf tournament where you have to drink a little thing of Crown with your partner by the end of 18 holes. And I kind of
trouble.
It's trouble. It was fun. The most I ever drank was the Indy 500. I was drunk. I was beer pong champion by 9 a.m. And I think we started at 6. Other than that, I don't have a ton of, drunk stories that I can remember, but one of my favorite, my mom reminded me this weekend of when I was in high school. I used to have bonfires, and I back then I didn't want my parents to know I was having beers, and we weren't having much. We just had like a couple 6-packs, but I hid the beer in the garden, and I woke up the next morning to my parents gardening. So I ran outside, tried to like sneak behind them when they weren't looking, grabbed the beer out of the bushes, and they knew. But they were great. My parents were great about it. They just said, don't be that guy. Don't do anything stupid. And I pretty much had followed that advice. So how about you, Bill?
There are two times when I've seen Pat just light up on this podcast and just get really excited.
Helmets?
No, not helmets.
Oh, not helmets.
Not helmets.
Oh, okay. Not helmets.
The first time was cereal. Remember how excited he got to talk about cereal?
Man.
And
so
now
excited.
it's beer. Now it's beer.
Yeah.
So it makes me, I cannot wait to get together for
I
our
can talk
meal that
more
we
about
can
beer. I lived in Spain and we had calimochos, which is like wine and Coke mixed together.
Oh.
If you've ever had it, I was thinking about all the weird stuff I've drank as well. Like they do that in Spain. In Guatemala, I lived in Guatemala. They have a beer called Gallo, and you put salt all over the rim because it's so disgusting. That's their like national beer. Yeah. So
does the salt help?
Yes, you have to.
Oh,
It's
it does.
so gross. It's so
okay.
gross.
Oh,
it's really bad. Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I definitely want to drink with you, Pat. That sounds fun.
I want to
that
drink
will
too.
be
This
coming
sounds
soon.
great. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. For me, guys, I'm going to start off with I cannot stand gin. That is just, it's nasty. I don't understand people that love gin and tonics and gin. I want to like them. It sounds refreshing. It's just I can't do it. I just can't do it. So that's the one that I just wanted to highlight on the no list for me. I love Eric learned this weekend. I love bourbon. Eric was so nice to break out his Blanton's, which is my favorite bourbon. I think we polished that, whatever was left of that. So thank you, Eric, for that. I love just a good old fashioned. I like mules. I am actually allergic to beer. So I cannot drink beer, and because I'm allergic to hops, so I've always been a hard alcohol guy. Not a big wine drinker. I do enjoy it from time to time and going out to a nice meal and splitting a bottle with Mars. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the drunk stories. Again, I'm going to save those for when we're in person. I know my dad listens to this podcast. He worries about my my well-being from some of the stories that I have shared with him. So some good Vegas ones, some good Minnesota ones. So anyway, I will share one quick one. It's pretty harmless. I know Jeff Giovanazzo, mutual buddy of Pat and I's. This involves him, and he listens to the pod too. So we were out at a course up at in Brainerd. And Pat, I'm sure you'd know the course. I don't remember. I think it was Madden's East or somewhere. Anyway, I was just bombed on the course and being a dickhead, and not in a mean way. I was just messing around. But I went up and I actually putted Jeff's ball on the green, and he was not pleased with that at all. And so he just got his ball and he just chucked it right into my nuts. And I mean, I deserved it too, but I went down. I mean, like it was a direct hit, and totally deserved it. And then I didn't learn from it because then we're flash forward. We're in Moses Lake, Washington, which is on the east side of the mountains at a cabin that we owned over there. And we're playing cornhole. And so I'm again being an idiot. With the cornhole bags, and Jeff does the exact same thing. He picks up the cornhole bag. Oh, I was pouring his drink out. That was the smart thing that I was doing. So, because that makes tons of sense. So he picked up the cornhole bag and he just chucked it directly into my nuts, again, down into the grass. And I mean, so Juvie's dealt with a bunch of drunk Sanders.
I don't know what the moral of the story is. Is it to not drink with Sanders or to not anger Jeff?
Don't anger Jeff, but
he's such a mild mannered guy. That sounds weird that he gets angry. He was my partner in the crown round, and since he's such a good golfer, he just made me drink the whole thing while he stayed sober, and we killed it.
That's good strategy. That is good strategy. Anyway, I'm a fun drunk. I love being with my buddies and I love having fun, but I just pushed it too far and being an idiot. And so he let me know. I think I've learned my lesson since then, but 2 times in the nutsack. That was deserved.
Wow.
Yeah. Bierman, what you got?
So for me, you kind of experienced this, Bill. I'm pretty simple. I can drink craft beers. I'll try new ones, when we're out at breweries, but I can also be completely content with drinking Miller Lite and nothing but Miller Lite. I started drinking it years ago when I was trying to lose weight, and the fact that it was light stood out to me. But I actually like the taste. I can drink a lot and still be functional, not have a hangover. So Miller Lite is definitely my go-to. But over the past 5 years, I've really gotten into wine as well, notably red wine and specifically Cabernet. My wife and I keep talking about trying to get out to Napa one of these days. I think that would be awesome. We just love wine. And then as far as the hard stuff, I also just got into bourbon too, and had drank a couple with Bill and Craig this past weekend, but just got into it a few years ago. But I live so close to Kentucky, so you almost have to drink bourbon. And I do really like it. Blanton's and Eagle Rare are my two favorites, but I'll try any bourbon and most likely will like it. Two caveats though: I can't drink more than 2 glasses in a night, or it will just completely F me up. And two, I gotta have it with the big ice cubes or the big ice balls. So, my hidden gem that I would just recommend, if anyone listen likes Cabernet and you want a really good bottle, but not spend a ton, it's not like super cheap, but it's not $100 bottle. I would recommend a wine called Bella Union. It's about $65 a bottle. So for the price, hands down, best cab value out there. So, yeah. So for quick drunk story, this is kind of a drinking and a fraternity hazing story. When I was joining a fraternity, one of the nights they took 3 of us in a back room, and we walked in and there were just cases and cases stacked of different beers, probably 15 to 20 different types of beers. They then blindfolded the 3 of us. They gave us each a shot of the beer, and then we had to guess which of the beers it was. If all 3 of us agreed and got it right, then the game's over. If not, we had to keep going until that occurred. And every time we got it wrong, we had to shotgun an entire beer. It's like a 12-ounce thing of beer. So the first few I just guessed, and I got them right. I didn't know. I just guessed and honestly got them right. But the other 2 said something different. So we all had to do our shotguns. After a couple, they realized that I was getting them correct. So I was trying to go first, and then the other 2 would just kind of follow my lead. Well, I missed the next couple. And so now we're like 6 shotgun beers in after like 30 minutes. And so I'm literally like thinking, if I don't get the next one right, we might all die here. Like this is a lot of alcohol. So the next one, I guessed. I didn't know. I guessed Heineken. And the one guy immediately said Heineken. But the third guy was like, I really think this is Busch, but I'll go with Heineken because my other 2 brothers said Heineken. Well, it was Busch. So we were wrong, but the 2 frat brothers overseeing it were so impressed with the guy backing his frat brothers that they let us in, because they said that was basically the point of the activity. It was for the 3 of us to like agree and like be correct, be right, but agree and not go in our own direction. So not only did I get drunk, but I learned a very valuable lesson, fellas. What I learned is that I do not know the frickin' difference between the taste of Heineken and Busch beers, and I still probably to this day cannot tell you the difference. My taste buds are not that good, but anyways. Yeah. But I did
my
get
father-in-law
really,
does,
really drunk.
My father-in-law does a taste test every 4th of July. It's kind of fun.
Okay,
but
are you good at it?
Nope.
Yeah,
no
I'm not
clue.
good at it.
No.
Yeah,
and I prefer my bourbon in a room temperature in a brown paper bag. So that's weird. You like it with ice, but yeah.
That I believe, Pat.
No, I don't. I stay away from the brown stuff. I'm more of a beer guy.
Yeah.
Smart.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for getting drunk with me on some fun alcohol memories. But now it's time to buck the hangover and get into the show. We will start with headlines from the past weekend, then our hot takes. And it's a slightly different version of our Stone Cold Lock, since we have a much smaller slate of games than normal, but we will still break down the action, and you'll still get to hear Pat's picks. So don't worry, you will still have the chance to make a lot of money. We have another fun top 5, or should I say funny top 5. See what I did there, guys? We'll get to that in a little
done.
bit.
Well played.
And of course, we'll have plenty of fun and shenanigans along the way, including Pat will finally tell us about the time he lost a hot dog eating contest to a vegetarian. All right, let's dive in to the major headlines from the past weekend. The college football season is quickly and sadly coming to an end, boys. We have only one game remaining in the season, but as Pat would say, it is shaping up to be a good old slobber knocker. The first participant was decided on Thursday night when the Notre Dame Fighting Irish fought back from an early 10-point deficit to defeat the Penn State Nittany Lions in the final moments of a thrilling game. Irish quarterback Riley Leonard left the game briefly under concussion protocol, but backup Steve Angeli filled in admirably until Leonard returned, and when he did, he threw the tying touchdown pass with 4 minutes remaining. A few minutes after that, Penn State quarterback Drew Aller threw the most unfortunate pass of his young career as it went right into the arms of a Notre Dame defender. Several plays later, with 12 seconds remaining, Irish kicker Mitch Jeter kicked a field goal to win the game. And in such a strange statistic, the Penn State wide receiver corps notched a total of 0 receptions. Yep, that's right. There were no completions to Penn State receivers the entire game, which is typically not a good sign to try and win a game of this magnitude. The Irish will now play the Ohio State Buckeyes, who had their own scare in their matchup against Texas on Friday night. Despite Ohio State looking like they were the better team the majority of the game, Texas had a 1st and goal from the 1-yard line with under 5 minutes left that would have tied the game. Unfortunately for Longhorn fans, the stingy Buckeye defense stopped them 3 times in a row, ultimately causing a 4th and goal from the 8-yard line. In a play Buckeye fans will remember forever, defensive end Jack Sawyer knocked the ball out of the hands of Texas quarterback Quinny Ewers and proceeded to return it the distance for a touchdown. So in the blink of an eye, a game that looked like it would be tied was soon a 14-point margin. And that is how it ended, with Ohio State prevailing 28-14. Oh, one last thing before we move on from this game. Just when you thought we were done talking about Coach Cignetti and his Cinderella Indiana Hoosiers this season. Want to know Indiana's only 2 losses all year? They were both to these 2 teams.
Wow.
On the road, no less, in both cases. So maybe, just maybe, the Hoosiers did actually deserve their spot in the playoff. After all, long live Kurt Cignetti, damn it. In the NFL world, we saw 6 games in the wild card round, and the majority of them were big yawn fests. So hopefully this weekend will bring more captivating action. In the only truly compelling game, the Washington Commanders beat Tampa Bay 23-20 on a field goal by Zane Gonzalez as time expired, and it barely clinged in after hitting the goalpost. Super rookie Jaden Daniels kept his team around all game, just long enough for them to pull it out. At the end, Daniels threw for 268 yards and 2 touchdowns and added another 36 on the ground. And for Washington, this is their first playoff win since 2006, a span of nearly 7,000 days. Wow. They will now travel to Detroit to face the Lions, who had a bye as the overall number 1 seed, and the Lions opened as 8.5-point favorites. We'll dive deeper into that game in just a moment. In the other games, the Texans crushed the LA Chargers 32-12 and will now face the Chiefs in Kansas City. The Ravens took care of business at home against hated rivals Pittsburgh Steelers, winning 28-14, and they will now face the Buffalo Bills, which is shaping up to be an instant classic. The Bills manhandled the Broncos 31-7, despite Denver scoring a touchdown on their very first drive. From then on, Josh Allen and the Bills completely dominated this game, and now they will host the Ravens in a game I just cannot wait to watch. In the NFC, the Eagles beat the Packers 22-10 and will now host the Los Angeles Rams, who won their home game against the Vikings, but their home game was in Phoenix due to the wildfires. Despite the distractions, Rams took care of business and Pat's Vikings by winning 27-9. In other NFL-related news, as reported here last week, as a strong possibility, Mike Vrabel was named the new head coach of the New England Patriots. And in the biggest Jerry Jones move ever, 3 days after the Cowboys refused the Bears permission to talk with their head coach Mike McCarthy, they promptly let McCarthy go and are now looking for a new coach themselves. All right, gents. Well, there was a lot of there were some good games, but also some clunkers in there. But regardless, lots of things to react to. So let's get into our hot takes from the past weekend's action. Yes, that's right. It is time for Sandman Sports Hot Takes, brought to you by Mike's Hot Honey. The honey's so hot that even, wait for it, Bill, Skyline Chili can't live without it. That's right. There was some big local news in Cincinnati this week about a partnership between Mike's Hot Honey and Skyline Chili. Let me briefly read an excerpt from the recent press clip. An iconic Cincinnati restaurant is starting their new year off by offering up a bit of a kick. Starting Monday, Skyline Chili is offering a twist on their iconic dishes in a partnership with Mike's Extra Hot Honey. Mike's Hot Honey Ways and Conies are now available, which feature a pure honey blend infused with chili peppers and add the perfect balance of sweetness and heat to their favorite Ways and Conies. Our fans love unique flavors that complement Skyline's classic taste, and Mike's Hot Honey brings just that, said Sarah Sicking, Vice President of Marketing for Skyline Chili. So, if you don't live in Cincinnati, you're not out of luck, though. If you do live in Cincinnati, get to Skyline and try it out. If you don't, go to mikeshothoney.com right now and order some, or go to the honey aisle at your local grocery store. Pretty cool, Sandman. We didn't get a chance to go to Skyline when you were
know.
Here. We didn't
Craig
get Craig.
Try it.
No, we didn't get Craig indoctrinated, but someday we'll get Pat there. We'll get Pat there for sure.
I like chili.
Maybe they'll still have Mike's Extra Hot Honey there when we go.
Pat likes a three-way.
That's what I've heard.
I still can't believe that's what they call it. That's the main dish.
Yeah. When I was saying on the press release Ways and Conies, that's what they mean, like 3 ways, 4 ways, 5 ways.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what that was. Okay, it makes sense. Yeah. It's awkward. I mean, we had a young waitress. I'm ordering a 3-way. Eric's son is there.
Oh yeah.
It's just a weird deal.
Bill was very disappointed when the waitress brought back a plate of spaghetti and chili. That's not what he was expecting.
Spaghetti and chili.
Spaghetti and chili. Yeah, that's what Skyline's all about, buddy.
That's Cincinnati chili, right?
It's an experience you'll love. You'll love, Pat.
It's crazy.
Anyway, all right. Well, Pat, why don't you start us off with your hot takes?
I don't really want to talk about football anymore.
Yeah,
dude. I know
my life.
I know.
I just can't go on. It's so. I don't even want to talk about it, guys. But it was good. The college football was great. I thought the college football games were fantastic. Sawyer's, whatever you want to call it, strip, takeaway, return for TD was fantastic. The as far as the NFL, I thought Texans D looked great. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter are good, but Derek Stingley was just laying the
everywhere.
He was all over the place. So look out for the Texans. Ravens beating the Steelers, that's pretty much par for the course. It's almost like the Steelers should just be bad one year. Get a good draft pick. Get out of your mediocre rut where you make the playoffs and lose first round. But I wouldn't worry about Tomlin. He'll be all right. He's too good. They're not going to get rid of him. Watch tomorrow's press release. He's gone. But Broncos, the good thing about the Broncos is I was furniture shopping, so I didn't have to watch that one because I was rooting for the Broncos. Eagles beating the Packers is always a bonus when the Packers lose. The Bucs losing, I thought that was a hard one for me. I hate to see Baker Mayfield go out that way with that fumble. And Bucky Irving, man, that guy looked awesome. I didn't really watch a ton of Bucs games this year, but that running back, he looked really good.
He's electric.
He's fantastic. He looked good. Other than that, there were no other games this weekend, right? That was it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no other games.
No, I would say all right, fine. We can talk about it. The Vikes.
Here we go.
I feel so bad for Darnold. That kid lost like $200 million in 2 games. I feel bad when I leave a casino down $100. That guy just lost so much money, and he's just always got this face. He's got this face like he's just like he's got the best poker face. He's got no expression. He's expressionless. I mean, I would be just going crazy. But hold the ball. Like, how can you not? At least like it's playoffs, man. Let her rip. See if you can throw it into tight coverage. See what you got. Let it sling. You can't hold the ball that long. It was really hard to watch. But with McCarthy, I'm excited about McCarthy because he can actually escape the pocket and escape the rush, and maybe we'll see because Darnold was not. He was just so slow. He was just sitting back there holding the ball forever. Anyway, I stopped watching after 3 quarters. I turned it off.
It is a shame it ended that way. Darnold did have a great year, and it doesn't take anything away from that. The Vikings were predicted to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year at the beginning. I mean, they had
their
a great
over under
year.
was 6.
Yeah, but I did see a funny
odds.
I did see a funny meme that said if Darnold played any worse, he'd be signed immediately to a $100 million contract by the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. That's probably that's where he should land. I could see that. I could see Darnold on the Browns.
Yeah, actually, I could too. Bill, what do you got?
I'm just gonna my hot take is gonna be a bit of a surprise to you guys, I'm sure. I have never rooted harder against a Husky athlete than I did on Sunday. And just picture this: I'm in the airplane. I'm actually in the airplane watching on my phone the end of the Sony Open. Nick Taylor, Husky golfer, Canadian, great dude, is on the 72nd hole and chips in for eagle to tie my Calcutta golfer, Nico Echeverria. And so I'm rooting obviously against him making that eagle. Then it goes to a playoff because the last 2 guys both struggle down the stretch. And so it's a 2-man playoff. And I'll cut to the chase. Nick Taylor on the second playoff hole wins, beats my guy Nico.
Your Calcutta guy lost. Oh my God.
Nick Taylor, they are showing Nick Taylor in the fairway and he's got his yardage book out. And every time he flips up his yardage book, there's a big purple W on it. And I'm just like, no. I love this guy. I love all Husky golfers. All Husky athletes, but I'm just like, I wanted him to lose so bad. So anyway, that was a real bummer. You hit one of those tournaments in the Calcutta and you paid for your whole season. And this was our first event. And so me and my couple other co-owners on him were texting furiously as Nick Taylor is pulling his putter back for this monster putt. We're lifting off. And I'm like, oh, guys, see you at 10,000 feet because I'm in the dead zone. And so as his putter's going back, cuts out. I have no idea what's going on. I'm just like hawking my phone, like, Heil, tell me if anyway, it was kind of a fun experience. But Nick Taylor, good for you, man. Go Dogs. Bierman, all my other ones were football related and you guys already kind of hit it. So
sorry. Speaking of Canada, one more Canada thing. I did watch the movie Strange Brew. You ever see the movie Strange Brew?
Oh, not in years though.
But like sometimes you watch these old movies and you're like, oh, that didn't age well. It's still good, still funny.
I was just gonna
Doug and Bob McKenzie, still great.
I'm gonna watch that. Yeah. Just their accents alone are just classic.
Take off,
Take off, eh?
That's awesome.
Hoser, wasn't that
Hoser?
Hoser.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right, well, I've got just a couple. So first one, I came across this list that I just find fascinating. And one team in particular caught my attention. And so I want to talk about this real quick. There's no excuse for this team, by the way, to have not won a national championship by now. So let me explain. This list I'm about to share is a list of teams with the most all-time wins in college football history without a national title. All right. The 7th team on this list is the one I want to talk about. But let me go through the list. So number 1 on this list is West Virginia. They have 789 wins, 15th all-time in all-time wins. West Virginia does not have a national title. They came close back in the late 80s, I think, with Major Harris. And, they've been decent at times. But Virginia Tech, 779 wins. They're number 2, 18th all-time. Wisconsin, 747 wins. They're third. My alma mater, Miami of Ohio, 733 wins. Believe it or not, they were like a powerhouse back in the 50s and 60s. They used to make a lot of bowl games, and they were good. But so they racked up a lot of wins back then. Utah is number 5. Missouri is number 6. But here's the team I want to focus on. Bill, you're gonna love this take, dude. Oregon is number 7 with 717 wins. It's inexcusable to me that they have not won a national championship by now. I was honestly surprised to see them on this list. Not that they haven't won one. I knew that they haven't won a national championship, but I wouldn't have guessed that they have that many wins. I mean, when I was growing up, they were awful. I mean, they were really bad. But credit to them, they've racked up a lot of wins, especially in recent decades. It's no mystery why. Phil Knight's money, Oregon's success, and their flashy brand directly tied to the Nike empire. Here's the issue. All those wins, all that money, and still no national championship. You just cannot call yourself a big boy or a blue blood without having a title under your belt. Yes, Oregon got screwed this year with their path and the matchups that they had. And I do think Dan Lanning has them on the cusp of greatness. I really do. But if they don't win one in the next 5 years, the entire athletic program should hang its head in shame, in my opinion. And here's a warning for Oregon. That money advantage that they've had from Nike, it's shrinking. You got the NIL collectives, the traditional big boys, all now have money flowing in. We talked a few weeks ago about Michigan and their sugar daddy. Now players, facilities, everything. Oregon just no longer has that unique edge that Phil Knight brought. So the window's closing, and you've kind of rubbed off on me a little bit, though.
I was going to say,
I'm starting to not like Oregon. So
I appreciate you reading my my notes that I sent you. Yeah. Sounds like this came directly from me.
Eric, man, you're tough. Were you like with your kids? Were you like, if you are not valedictorian, that is unacceptable? Like, there's only one champion. You can only have one winner out of a lot of schools. That's harsh. You're mean.
It's fine. Just don't act like you're a champion then. Okay. Don't act like you're freaking awesome. They annoy me. I'll tell you, they annoy me.
Yeah, I mean, preach.
There's a lot of. There's a team about 2 hours north of me that annoys me a hell of a lot more, but Oregon's starting to annoy me. All right, number 2. Let's talk a little bit about James Franklin at Penn State. So the guy just finished his 11th season, and in all honesty, I have some mixed feelings about this and about his tenure. So let's first look at the positives. I'm going to throw out the COVID year. He was 4-5. That year, that was a weird year for everyone. So let's just pretend that year didn't happen. In his other 10 seasons, he has won at least 7 games every year. He's gone to a bowl game every single year. He's hit double-digit wins 6 of those 10 times, including 13 wins this past season and a CFP semifinal berth. He's been a stabilizing force for the program in the aftermath of the Sandusky scandal, and he deserves credit for truly bringing respectability back to Happy Valley. But here's the issue. He is 4-16 against Michigan and Ohio State. Worse, he's 1-14 against top 5 teams, with his only win in that realm coming against Ohio State back in 2016. If you're Penn State, the goal isn't just to be good. The goal is to win a national championship. And you cannot do that without beating elite teams, without beating top 5 teams. So should Franklin be on the hot seat? I think it's fair for Penn State fans and boosters to demand more, but here's why I would urge patience. People said the same things about Jim Harbaugh at Michigan in 2020. He couldn't win the big games, couldn't beat Ohio State. Look at what Michigan became since 2021 because they had a little more patience with Harbaugh. Penn State's close. They've built a top-tier program. Franklin has elevated the brand. Unless Franklin has a clunker season like 5-7 or 6-6, I wouldn't rush to fire him. And here's, firing him, it's risky. The grass is not always greener on the other side. Let's just ask Nebraska about that. Let's do a little history lesson here from Lincoln. Frank Solich took over as head coach in 1998 after legendary coach Tom Osborne retired following his run that included 3 national championships in 4 years, 94, 95, 97. Solich had a pretty damn respectable tenure, finishing with a 58-19 record over 6 seasons. He led Nebraska to the BCS national championship game in the 2001 season where they lost to Miami. He won 3 Big 12 North Division titles in 99, 2000, and 2001. Despite all that success, he was fired after 9-3 season in 2003. And the decision to fire Solich is often seen as a turning point for Nebraska football. 20 plus years later, they have still struggled to regain its former glory. Who knows what Matt Rule will do? There's some minor positive sides there, but just be careful what you wish for, Penn State fans. Franklin is classy, consistent. He's laid the groundwork for long-term success. My advice would be give him a year or 2 more to see if he can get over the hump in the big games. If he can't, then maybe it is time to look elsewhere. But for now, I would say patience might be the smarter play.
Nice.
All right. Well, let's break down the big games this weekend. We won't necessarily do our Stone Cold locks, but we will pick each of the 5 major games this weekend. The line, the over-under, any other tidbits worth talking about for each game are up for grabs here. But let's start with the biggie. Let's start with the national championship game on Monday, and then we'll talk through the 4 NFL divisional games. So the line is currently Ohio State -8. What I saw this morning as I was putting this together has come down from 9.5 in the opening, and the over-under is 45.5. So, guys, what are your thoughts on this game? Pat, start us off.
I was picking Ohio State all the way through, picked them at the beginning, but I can't go against my ancestors, and I feel like there's going to be a little bit of luck for the Irish, and we're gonna sneak one out here. I like the offensive line. Defense is stout. The big thing for me is if they can contain the air attack of Ohio State and the running attack. I feel like they'll probably be able to contain the run, but those wide receivers are pretty good for Ohio State. Give me Notre Dame to at least cover, maybe win.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I tend to lean with Pat's ancestors here. A couple things that I just would highlight that gave me pause on this, though. So I heard that the left tackle, I believe, for Notre Dame is out. There's a couple of injuries on the offensive line. That does make me worry, especially because they're such a running team, and Ohio State's such a good defensive front. So that gives me a little bit of pause, but I was also laughing that I think I shouted out Jeremiah Smith as like the greatest freshman wide receiver of all time. And then he went for 1 catch and 3 yards, I think, in this last game. So that, and they still won, obviously, even with him maybe having an off game. And I know that, Penn State was, I'm totally having a brain freeze. Who did Ohio State just beat?
Texas.
Thank you. Texas. Yeah. Great game. Right. As Eric covered in headlines. Yeah, I mean, in Texas, I know was like rolling coverage and double covering him and making sure he didn't hurt him. But, there's something about Riley Leonard that I just think is going to keep this game close. That's where my gut goes. The thing is I really like the under in this game. 45.5 feels like a lot of points. I think these are both good defenses. I think that they're going to play a little bit, probably more conservative brand of football, try to pound the rock. Keep possession, take a little air out of it. So anyway, the thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State wins this game by 20 points, but I still see this being under. That being said, I still lean Notre Dame to cover that 8.5. I just like the under a little bit more. Bierman, where's your head at?
That is great breakdown, Bill. I am a little nervous with
I didn't know we could do
linemen.
research. I didn't know that.
It's optional. It's optional.
It's optional.
It's optional. And Pat, especially when you're wearing your team on your chest, I mean, the pick's in the heart.
And we're talking about drinking at the opening. I mean, it's all Irish. Go.
Touchdown.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. In the semifinals, I missed both of my predictions. just barely on both. I had Penn State covering, and I had Texas covering. But Notre Dame won the game. They now head to the national championship for the first time. To try and win a national championship for the first time since 1988. Ohio State, they've just been unstoppable. They've scored 40 plus points against Tennessee and Oregon in the earlier rounds, and they were able to still win a lower scoring game, a slobber knocker, against Texas. So they can beat you in so many different ways. Ohio State's offense, Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, the two-headed running back tag, they've been firing on all cylinders. But Notre Dame, they showed resilience. They came back from a 10-0 deficit against Penn State. Riley Leonard, you mentioned, Bill, he just really continues to impress me. And I love Marcus Freeman and his leadership. Both teams boast top 10 offenses and top 10 defenses. Ohio State is a more complete team. No doubt, but I do expect a close game. I'm taking Notre Dame to cover the spread, and boy, would I love for your ancestors to bring home the W, Pat. So I do like the under too, Bill. If I take a side there, I would take the under. I think it's going to be low scoring. So
nice.
All right, going to be a great game. Cannot wait. We're flying back from our ski trip. We leave tomorrow. We'll get back Monday night at like 9:00. So I'll be able to watch the second half of it, but I'm gonna miss the first part. All right. Well, let's now get into the 4 NFL divisional round games. We will start with the Texans traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs on Saturday afternoon. Chiefs are favored by 8 points. Over under is 41.5. Pat, lay it on us.
All right. Just a disclaimer. All my picks are with my heart this week. So that's why I went Notre Dame. I'm going Houston here. And I thought Houston's D looked really good. Even
what you're really trying to say is you hate the fucking Chiefs.
I hate the Chiefs.
Is that right?
I don't want to see the Chiefs win.
This was the most obvious pick coming that I've ever seen in my entire 22 episodes.
Do you want to predict what I'm gonna say, Bill?
Chiefs.
Yeah,
you're gonna pick the Chiefs.
No, you're taking the Texans.
No, I'm with you, Pat. I hate the freaking Chiefs, but we'll get to me in a second. All right, what do you? So you like the Texans?
Yeah, give me the Texans. Well, at least the points. I mean, that's a lot of points, and I feel like it'll be close if the Chiefs somehow miraculously win again because they made a deal with the devil. I don't know, but. Yeah,
and Roger Goodell
and
all NFL.
Yeah, that's
NFL
the other
officials.
thing that scares you is you feel like the NFL does not want Houston.
No,
it's you see it coming. Yep.
Yeah. I'm with Pat on this one. I like Houston. I didn't feel strongly about it by any means. I actually really like the under again here. I think I saw it was going to be 28 degrees. It's going to be cold. Maybe the Chiefs are a little rusty coming out. Maybe they just come out firing on all cylinders. But I actually really like Pat's earlier comment, which is Eric and I were actually enjoying a great meal at his club, and the game was on, and all I saw every time I looked up at the TV above my head was Derek Stingley or Will Anderson or someone just Justin Herbert Ducks throwing another pick. I mean, it was just a absolute demolition by the Houston defense. And so I do think that I see Steve Spagnuolo is he underrated? Is that even fair to say? He's a fantastic defensive coordinator. I know you guys hate the Chiefs, but I mean, honestly, the Chiefs defense is probably the biggest reason I think that they've had such a good season. The offense has not been stellar. So anyway, my take was just, I see a low scoring game. I'd lean Houston here, 7.5, whatever the spread was, but I like the under 41.5.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Bill. You're right. We were watching that game at the club, and I had drafted Herbert and Ladd McConkey in our fantasy playoff thing, and they're both out now, which sucks. But my last pick, or my defense pick near the end, I'm like, oh God, I don't know who to pick. I had a few options left. I'm like, I guess I'll take the Texans, even though they're going against my two guys. Thank God I did, because every interception Herbert threw at least got that equalized, and they did look good. Pat, you're right.
They gave you that long touchdown to McConkey just for funsies.
Oh, it was. Yeah. I got a lot. I did. I mean, Herbert did awful, but McConkey scored me a lot of points, and Houston's defense did really good. So So, anyways, yeah, I'm with you. I like both the Texans and I like the under. The Chiefs are 15-2, but their offense ranks just 16th in the league. I mean, they are about as average as you can get offensively, with that, which I don't think most people would guess. Texans defense, Pat talked about it, and Bill echoed it. Stepped up last week. They forced 4 INTs from Justin Herbert. Nico Collins, I mean, he is
He's
emerging as like a legit,
Legit.
almost there superstar.
Legit.
I mean, he is good. CJ Stroud and Joe Mixon, they add some firepower there. I love what Mixon is doing on the
Mixon looked
ground.
good.
Yeah, he did. And
Other than
Stroud
that fumble,
is definitely taking a step back.
He was good.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
I love that he was signaling that he was down too. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
so obviously out,
Yeah.
and the offensive lineman jumps on it, and he's like, down, down, down.
I love
No,
it.
what are you talking about, dude? You're terrible.
I think the other factor here is Chiefs starters haven't played in almost 3 weeks now, which I think could lead to a little bit of rust. Houston's defense, they are 3rd ranked in the NFL. So, I mean, it was no surprise what they did against Chargers. I think that is going to keep this game close. So, yeah, I like the Texans +8. And I for that reason, for their defense and for Kansas City's offense not being what it has been in years past, I lean toward the under as well. I could see it being 17-14, 17-10, 20-13 type game. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, so far we've been aligned on our first 2 picks, gentlemen. Let's go to the next one. We'll go to the Washington Commanders are traveling to Detroit to take on the overall number 1 seed in the NFC, where the Lions are 10-point favorites and the over-under is 55.5. Pat, what do you got here?
Man, I hope Washington wins, but I'm going to take Detroit to just cruise. I really want Washington to win. I don't want it to be Detroit, but give me Detroit. If I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna bet with my heart on this one. Give me Detroit. To crush.
Yeah. This is similar to the last game. I lean to the Commanders here, but I don't love that. I just like the under. I actually really agree with Pat. I think this might be a blowout. So, I mean, I still think the Commanders might keep it close enough to cover that 10, but give me the under here. That's the only play I would touch on this game. I just don't have a great vibe for it.
I was back and forth on this 3 different times when I was doing my best bets article on Monday. I kept switching back and forth. I don't know. It could go either way. I ultimately landed on the Commanders +10, just because that is a lot of points for a playoff game. But I hear you. I do not love this. I would not recommend betting a lot on either side on this one. I will say, quarterback Jaden Daniels, he's having a historic rookie season. I mean, he's carrying this team. Yeah, it's so much fun. But
Scary Terry McLaurin was playing really well.
Oh yeah, McLaurin. Yeah, he's great. It's actually a great call out, McLaurin. Even though I hate the college he went to,
Bierman conveniently forgot to mention McLaurin.
Yeah, no, McLaurin actually he's had a really good season. We got to.
Oh, where did he go to school?
Yeah,
well, where was that?
Yeah. He's whatever. Anyway. No, Lions, they're stacked offensively. I mean, you could just go on and on. Gibbs, St. Brown, Williams, Laporta. I mean, they're just crazy. You got Goff is continuing, just having a great year. But the Lions defense, I mean, they have struggled at times this season, but they've stepped up in key moments. I think the Commanders are going to hang around early. I think the Lions are the better team overall. I just think I see like a late back recover by the Commanders. And that's
totally
why I like the +10. So, all right. On Sunday in the afternoon game, we have the Rams going to Philly to battle the Eagles. Philly's favored by 6, over-unders 43.5. Who do you like, Pat?
Give me the Rams. I just don't believe in the Eagles' offense. Their defense is good, but man, Stafford he's just a pure passer. He's done it forever. So like, he got the experience. You know, he's not like going to be like Jaden Daniels, big game, big moment. You know, he's been there. He's done this. So give me the Rams. I just feel like I just don't trust Philly. And I hate Philadelphia and their fans. Like, they're just not nice people. I don't like people who are angry, bitter, and mean to others, because I was bullied so much as a kid. No, I'm just kidding.
Screw Philly.
But screw Philly.
Screw Philly.
Yeah. I feel like Jalen Hurts will let him down, throw a couple picks. Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I'm on the Rams too. It's probably a little bit of NFC West bias, but I just have this feeling that before the playoffs started, I love the Rams. And sorry, Pat, I know I liked them against your Vikes last week, but this was just kind of my underdog darling this year. I think Sean McVay, if he's not, in the top 3 best coaches, it feels like that's wrong to me. I don't know if he's the best, but he's just such an unbelievable game coach, makes adjustments. I mean, you look down their roster. Who are these guys? I mean, on offense, Pat mentioned Stafford, Puka, even Cooper Kupp seems to have taken a big step back. But, I mean, they really just don't. Kyron Williams has had a great season.
Is good.
Yeah, great season. Tyler Higbee, though, I mean, just mediocre. I mean, he's okay, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it's just they just keep getting it done. So I'm gonna roll with them plus the points in this one. Wouldn't surprise me one bit though if Philly wins by a touchdown here. So,
Yeah, I gotta go opposite of you fellas on this one. Rams, they exceeded expectations this season, but they're facing a tough Eagles team. Stafford does lead a very high-powered offense. Nakua, and you're right, Kupp is kind of taking a step back, but Nakua is great. Higbee actually had a great game last week.
He did before he got hurt.
Yeah, before he got hurt. That's right. Kyron Williams has been one of the best running backs in the NFL. But the Rams defense is not good. They rank near the bottom of the league. The Eagles on the other side, they have the NFL's number 1 defense, and they have an explosive offense with Hurts, Barkley, and Brown. I just Philadelphia at home to me is too strong. I think the Eagles are going to win by a lot here. So, All right, last one here. We're going to move on to the game of the playoffs, in my opinion, at least so far. Yeah, I really wish this was the AFC Championship game. The Ravens travel to Buffalo on Sunday night in a game that opened with Buffalo favored by 1, but now is flipped to the Ravens -1. Pat, who do you like in this one, buddy?
I want to see the Ravens win. I love Lamar. I love watching him play. But they're both quarterbacks are so exceptional and so hard to wrap up and get a hold of. They're so elusive. So I'm just hoping for a good game. You feel like there's not a number high enough as far as the over goes. Over under. I think this one could be just give me 80 as the over under, and I might take over. But yeah, I want to see the Ravens win. That's all I got. Yeah, on that one. Good game. Excited to see it.
I'm with Pat. Again, I'm just so hoping for a good game. It being not really a huge fan of either team, but respecting the heck out of Lamar and Josh Allen. They're so fun. Love what they can do with their legs. They're also just like clutch. I just am hoping for a great game. That being said, I'm taking the Ravens -1.5, -1, wherever it's at now. I think Bierman's different on this one, and I actually really enjoyed reading the best bets. Just the reasonings and rationale. This is a little bit more of just a heart bet. I'm kind of rooting for, shockingly, John Harbaugh for some reason, but I just think the Ravens are just phenomenal, and I kind of want them to win for some strange reason. So, Bierman, was I right in my remembering?
You are right. I will say I'm not going to be disappointed in whoever wins. I cannot wait to watch the game. For a game that doesn't involve the Bengals, it's rare that I get super excited about a game, but this one I am. I am going with the Bills +1, but this could go either way. The Ravens have the number 1 offense led by MVP frontrunner Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews remain key contributors despite the injury to Zay Flowers. It concerns me a little bit. I don't know if he'll be back or not, but Josh Allen, to me, matches Lamar's MVP level play. James Cook has just had an incredible season. We talked about Kyron Williams. James Cook has been explosive as well. Khalil Shakir has stepped into the number one role with some clutch plays. To me, it does feel like this game could go either way, but Buffalo's at home, so we're going to roll with with the Bills +1. And similar to the Lions-Commanders game, this game feels like it should be a shootout. So the over-under at 51.5, I kind of like the over, but I don't know. I could also see it being like a 24-23, 24-21 type of game. So probably be
it's
careful
going to be cold
there too.
It's going to be cold.
Yeah.
I don't know. You never know.
You never know. It's tough, but anyways, all right, yeah, that one I can't wait for. Honestly, all 5 of the games we just covered, I'm gonna be really excited to watch. So, but all right, fellas, well, let's dive into this week's top 5 today. Just like most days on this pod, we are in a light mood and we just want to laugh. So, what better way to do that than to think of some of our favorite comedians of all time? So, can be male or female. They can certainly be funny actors too, but typically thinking, somebody who's at least probably done some stand up at some point to qualify for this list. I know, this one was a tough one for me, as I had at least like 5 honorable mentions as we were making these lists. So it should be fun. Let's get into it. Pat, kick us off with your number 5 and 4.
Yeah, I tried to stick to mainly just on stage comedians.
Yeah.
My first one was Jim Gaffigan, number 5. Jim Gaffigan. The Hot Pocket bit is funny as hell. He's a pretty clean comic, which is nice. So we listened to him with our kids and a lot of laughs. I mean, his delivery's great. You just see him as just he just seems like just a fun dude to hang around, and he seems genuine. What you see is what you get with that guy. And yeah, Diarrhea Pocket is one of the funniest bits. So give me Jim Gaffigan at number 5. And my number 4, I'm going to stick with kind of a similar comic, Nate Bargatze. I think his stuff similar to Gaffigan. He keeps it pretty clean. It's new too, so he's kind of fairly new, so it's fresh and funny. Yeah, his delivery, same thing. Seems like a genuine guy, and his delivery is just so. It's so great. It's just a real, he seems like an easygoing guy, and he's just got these quick little hitters that are great. It's good cadence, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, I think this might be a first, boys. Pat just said my exact 5 and 4.
Oh my gosh,
nice.
That is definitely a first.
I'm pretty sure you won't have my number 1 though.
Okay, we might be different on that, but I have 20 guys in my honorable mentions. This one was probably my hardest to fit into the top 5 that we've done yet.
Well, and you've already said
fantastic.
2 that I don't have, but I'm like, oh yeah, those I should have thought about that.
Yeah,
but
love that. A couple things just to call out too about Gaffigan. Pat mentioned it, but same with Bargatze. They're not really blue comics. I mean, one thing we do a lot is take these long road trips to soccer tournaments, soccer games, vacations, etc. We do a lot of trips east of the mountains here, or south to Bend, Oregon, or and so I just love putting on like comics sometimes in the cars, and we all just die laughing, and these are 2 of our faves. So Gaffigan and Bargatze, and I think Bargatze is probably a little recency bias for me, but I mean, there's just so many bits that he does. I love how he plays up his dumbness, and but also because we're a sports podcast, Gaffigan played tight end at Purdue.
That's right.
I don't know if you if you guys knew that. Yeah. And also Bargatze's a huge golfer, like huge sports fan, bandy, football, and golfer. So anyway, Bierman, what do you got for your 5 and 4?
Nice. Yeah, I'm going old school on most of mine.
Nice.
So
okay.
yeah, so number 5, I'm going with Rodney Dangerfield. Some of these, I'm sure, being influenced a little bit by what I see from them as actors. But I actually went back and even to watch some of their actual stand-up clips as I was prepping for this. And I mean, man, all of them are just hilarious with the mic in hand. And really, Dangerfield, there are a few better and funnier than him. So what I really liked about him was he pokes fun at himself. He's got his whole no respect line, of course, and it what made him famous, and just how self-deprecating he is. I like that. I like when people don't take themselves too seriously. What also made him so funny, and this is true with a few other ones as well, but his exaggerated facial expressions, like not just the delivery, but like the way his face is when he says something, I think it just makes me laugh. He delivered one-liners with just precision and charm. I don't know. I love him. I will just one classic joke that I think is just funny, and I can't deliver it anywhere near like him, but just the way he said it, I told my wife the truth. I told her I was seeing a psychiatrist, and she told me the truth. She was seeing a psychiatrist and 2 plumbers and a bartender.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, I love him. And then I got to go with Jerry Seinfeld as my number 4. Yes, I love his show, but what made his show so hilarious was just his unique observations. And that's what a stand-up is all about, just to truly observe the hilarity and nonsense and annoyances of our everyday life, and then point them out in a humorous way. It's simple, yet it was so innovative, and it resonates with millions. And to your point, both your points, he keeps his humor clean, and I do like that in the majority of the comics that I like. So he focuses primarily on relationships, social norms, and just like quirky behaviors. Those are all things that each of us can relate to as everyman. So I don't know. Yeah, I like Seinfeld. I think he's funny.
Well, you bring up a good point. Comedy and tragedy are next door neighbors. So a lot of these guys, speaking of my next comic, definitely pretty much a polar opposite of like a Nate Bargatze was Dave Attell. I don't know if you guys remember Dave Attell, but he had the Dave Attell. He had the Insomniac.
Still doing it.
Insomniac with Dave Attell show on Comedy Central. It was almost like the poor man's Anthony Bourdain. So they'd start the show with him on a stage and some of the highlights of his set, and then the beginning of the show is he's walking out of the club that he just performed at, and then he's going out on the town to the weird parts of the town. Like he was at Chicago, he was at a wrestling academy, like a WWF, like he just goes to random weird spots and talks to people and people in the public. And yeah, he was always funny. One of my favorite ones from him was like he does he did where he goes, "Oh yeah, anyone else ever black out?" Or as I like to call it, time travel. He's dark, edgy.
That's awesome.
He makes you uncomfortable at times as a comic, and so he was my number 3. Number 2 for me, it was Eddie Murphy. When I was young, Raw and Delirious were so funny.
Two
I was
of the
like
best
12
of all
years
time.
old when I heard those, and oh man, he's so funny. Obviously he went on to have a good film career, and but his stand-up, Delirious and Raw, were 2 of the best for its time.
Yeah, 100%. It almost feels like sacrilege to not put him into my top 5, just because, like you said, the specials were just iconic, and I mean, in a lot of ways, still hold up really well to this day. I just was, I don't even remember if it was Delirious. I think it was Delirious, where he's talking about the shoe. His girlfriend or whatever, just like she would just throw the shoe, but the sound effects, the whole thing, just so good. I did not put Eddie Murphy into my top 5, but it seemed like that was a mistake. I also didn't put Jerry Seinfeld in there. And Bierman, how good is Seinfeld, right? Larry David as well, right in there as well for me. But my 3 is Bill Burr. I don't know if you guys know Bill, but Boston guy. Yeah. Super edgy, does not give a shit if you like him or not. I mean, there are clips of him turning audiences and then just relishing in the fact that they are miserable with what he's doing. And it is, I mean, he's so brave, and I just don't have that. I want people to like me. He is just the complete opposite. He also has a great podcast that if you guys ever get a chance to check out, it's usually just him. He does bring on some guests, but I mean, he will carry an hour and a half by himself, and I'll laugh out loud 5 times. I mean, like hysterically. And this is just him riffing, which is amazing. He also has this incredible ability to make me laugh during ad reads. So he's just got his sponsors. One of them is called Me Undies. And he just, I mean, I don't fast forward through the commercials ever because he's just hilarious, even doing ad reads. So Bill Burr's really, really good. His latest special, I think, was at Red Rocks, and it's pretty damn funny. My number 2 is Dana Carvey. Just an absolute Saturday Night Live, all of the characters, of course, that we all know. His impressions are so, so good. And I don't know if you guys listen. I don't think you guys are big podcast guys like I am, but he has a podcast with David Spade called Superfly. They did originally, it was Fly on the Wall, and they brought in all Saturday Night Live guests and people and reminisced and everything, and it was really, really funny. But it kind of sort of hit its wall. Yeah, it ran its course, and so then they changed it to Superfly, and I mean, he is just hilarious. I mean, his impressions dating back to Ross Perot, if you guys remember that. George Bush, he does a great Paul McCartney. He does Obama, he does Biden. His Trump, it just has me rolling nowadays. Really, really funny. Choppin' Broccoli, one of the greatest. I love how he brought music into his sets, his stand-up. And anyway, just some specials for the ages. So Dana Carvey's my number 2. Bierman, what do you got for your 32?
Yeah. All right. Well, for my number 3, I talked about Seinfeld. For my number 4, one of the biggest influences on Seinfeld was the all-time great George Carlin, and that is who I'm going with number 3. You can definitely tell that there was an influence there in both their styles. Like Seinfeld, Carlin also poked fun at society, but he was darker and definitely did it in a more serious way. He often attacked religion and politics. He famously concocted the 7 words you can never say on television, which was groundbreaking comedy in the early 70s. And, I didn't realize how influential it was, but it was actually part of the Supreme Court's decision in 1977 to allow the FCC to still dictate censorship on television, and still plays a role today. So I like comedians, as you can probably tell, who deliver observational humor. And I also like 1 or 2 liners is part of my thing. I can appreciate longer, more drawn out stories and bits, but I like the 1-liners, and I can relate to what Carlin definitely brings. Like most, what makes Carlin so funny, in my opinion, it's not just his content and what he's saying, but how he's delivering it. And again, kind of what his facial expressions are, and just his overall timing. To be a great comedian, you got to have great timing, and he's a master at that. So we'll go with Carlin, number 3. And then number 2, Ron Williams is my number 2. I love this guy. The only thing I may love more than good observational humor and perfectly timed 1-liners is a fantastic impression. And that's kind of what you talked about, Bill, before. But this guy can do great impressions, great accents. There's really none better at that than Ron Williams. He was also often self-deprecating. He was a warm guy too. He had a heart that kind of showed, I think, in his stand up and in his acting. He a couple lines as I was researching that. I had actually heard this one that I'm about to say before. I had not heard the second one, but he said, "Cocaine is God's way of saying you're making way too much money." And then on Ronald Reagan, he said, "Ronnie's the only man who makes Alzheimer's look like it's actually working." Oh God. So I don't know. He very talented comedian. Obviously, he was more known for acting as time went by, but we talked on this pod the sadness and tragedy of him dealing with his own challenges toward the end of his life, which ultimately ended with him committing suicide. But his legacy lives on. He's given smiles in the last countless millions, including me. So thank you, sir, and rest in peace, Mr. Williams. All right, Pat, what do you got? Number one.
All right, I'm gonna pull in Eric here and do a
Oh.
two for
What?
because I forgot.
Oh, okay.
I didn't look. I can't believe I
Wow.
forgot Chris Rock. Like I don't know what I was thinking. Chris Rock put some tussin on it. He's one of my all-time favorites, and so is Dave Chappelle.
Hilarious.
So 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
Chris Rock
I knew you were
and
going to
Dave
say
Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle. Like
Chappelle's
that's
the
how
best.
well I have gotten to know you over the last 22 episodes. I truly would have guessed Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle lives an hour from me.
Yeah.
He lives up in Yellow Springs.
Oh, we should hang out with him when we come out there.
We should.
Yeah.
Maybe hey, Dave,
Invite
if you're
him.
listening,
Invite him down.
if you're listening to this podcast, you are welcome to join us on our Nailed It.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
Chappelle's
hilarious.
the best.
Yeah, no, I cannot disagree. Both of those were honorable mentions for me too.
Yeah. And what do you say about them? I mean, they're both fantastic. Yeah. They're early, especially Chappelle's early stuff. Go back and some of his early stuff is so good. And his voice, he's got this great voice.
He does have a great voice.
So funny.
His delivery is, he might be the GOAT of delivery, in my opinion.
Yeah. But Chris Rock,
I didn't realize
Chris
Rock
up there. He can hit. Some of his are so good. Some of his things just hit hard.
Hilarious.
Whereas Chappelle's like funny almost all the way through. Whereas Chris Rock will hit you really hard every once in a while. I love that.
He can take a hit too.
He got slapped.
A slap.
Yep. So, yep.
Yeah, I didn't realize when I was researching that Chappelle actually, at a very early age, went to a school for theater arts in New York, I think it was, and you can see how that training and that influence is in his comedy. I just think that guy weaves a story better than any comedian that I know. So yeah, he's unbelievable. And again, I can't believe he's not in my top 5. I mean, that's just and Chris Rock.
You can do it. You can do a 1A, 1B. You can just make stuff up as you go.
I'm gonna do. I'll do a 1A, 1B, but that's just because Bill Cosby, who is my first influential comedian as a kid, right? I just loved his bits. And you know what I had? I bought one of those tape cassettes. Remember those mail order things that they used to send, and it's like
Columbia
send a
House.
penny.
Columbia House.
Yeah. That was, I couldn't think of the name, like RCA or Columbia House, but it was like send a penny and we'll send you 8 things, and then after that we'll charge you $100 for a tape, and you can't figure out how to cancel this thing for the rest of your life. That was the program, right? And but Bill Cosby, a set that he did was one of my first ones, and my buddy John Cottons and I used to just laugh our asses off listening to Bill Cosby. And then obviously the Fall from Grace and all that stuff, and it's now I felt like I can't even put him in my top 5 because of that. But he's another guy that listening to with the kids in the car, right? I mean, they don't know anything about Bill Cosby's story. They don't know the Cosby Show, Bill Huxtable, right? Was it Bill Huxtable? That doesn't sound right in my head now. What was his? Bill Huxtable. Cliff. Thank you. I'm like, Bill Huxtable. What is
Cliff
that?
Huxtable.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not right. Cliff Huxtable, good call. Thank you, Behrman. Anyway, they just were dying in the car. They're just like, this guy's hilarious. The Fat Albert bits and all the stuff. I mean, he's really funny. Anyway, he's not in my top 5 because of his Fall from Grace. So my real number 1 is actually a personal story. And that's why he's my top. He's probably not the top comedian, but to me, he's the top guy. And that's because I actually coached this kid in basketball at Shorecrest High School in the 90s. His name is Adam Ray, and he has turned into quite a comedian and star. And it's just so cool to see this kid that I coached and grew up in Lake Forest Park where I grew up, and just his affinity for Seattle sports is unrivaled. He wears Seattle sports stuff basically at every show that he ever does, the hats or the whatever. He's just hilarious. He's a real improv comic. He loves to do crowd work. He's really funny. And so kudos to him. And I just want to give you guys one quick story of Adam Ray and how I knew this kid was going places when we were in coaching him when he was at Shorecrest. So we went to this basketball team camp up in Bellingham, Washington, which is where Western Washington University is here. It's an hour north of Seattle, a little bit more. And we're up there at this camp, and they're doing a dunk competition. Now, Adam Ray was the guy that you wanted to have on your team. Not super athletic, but talented, good hands, big, kind of heavy set kid, no hops. I mean, I'm talking about no hops. And so Lucas and I, my good buddy and the head coach, I was the JV coach and the varsity assistant, we're looking at each other going, what is Adam doing out there in this dunk competition? He cannot touch the rim, you guys. And so, I mean, this gym, Carver Gym, is packed with hundreds teams, all the players. I don't remember parents being there, but the gym is just packed. And Adam Ray is standing at the opposite free throw line, Michael Jordan style, getting the crowd pumped up. And during the warm-ups and everything, he'd been going up and doing layups. And all these kids are looking around. These kids are going up and doing reverses and windmills and just this whole thing. And then this kid's doing layups, left and right hand, like Larry Bird style under the rim and all this stuff. He gets the crowd going, and people are like, he's towing the free throw line. Like, that's where I'm going to go from, right? I'm jumping from there. The crowd is in unison clapping. Ray takes off, dribbling the ball down the court. He runs all the way to the free throw line, plants his left leg like he's going to go up and jam it, and crumples to the ground with a knee injury. The crowd, the gym is going nuts and is now silent, and you could literally hear a pin drop. And he's screaming in pain and rolling around on the ground. Well, Lucas and I know that he's full of shit. He is playing this thing up to the nth degree, and he's rolling. People come running over. They're just like, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? He's limping off. He's limping off. He's playing this thing up to the thing. Lucas and I knew this kid was destined for stardom, not because of his basketball ability, but because this kid can go into any room and make anyone laugh. And it is like a superpower.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he's also just a freaking awesome dude and a great human. And I just think every time I see this guy, he's been in big movies and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I just clap for this kid because it's so cool to see someone like that living out their dream. He went to USC, majored in theater, then became a stand-up comic, has done acting. Anyway, sorry for the long story, but it's just one of those ones that's like personal to me. And Adam is just like, it's so cool to see him.
I had never heard of him, but I just checked him out. It looks awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
Very, very cool. Anyway, that's my number one. Bierman, who you got?
That's very cool, man. All right, so as much as I always say these lists are tough for me to compile, and I always have lots of honorable mentions, there's almost always a clear number one for me. And that was definitely the case here. I found this guy to be so original and so hilarious. And I've said for years, he's my number one.
Can I guess?
You can guess.
You said you were going to guess. Is it Mitch Hedberg?
No, that's
okay.
Not bad.
Right.
I do like, but no, that it is not. I don't think you would guess this person. He is known for his monotone voice. Does that help?
Stephen Wright.
Stephen Wright. Dude, I love Stephen Wright. To me,
hilarious.
Just he's so different than the majority of comedians out there. And I knew this guy was my favorite years ago. I was watching one of his specials. I mean, decades and decades ago. And he used this line, and I just think it is such a creative and funny joke. This is my type of humor. So this is his quote. And I'm not going to be able to do it like him, but I was walking in a bad neighborhood with my friend, and this guy jumped out and said, "Give me all your money." So I handed $500 to my friend and said, "Here's that money I owe you." That so to me is freaking funny. And I could go on and on with his one-liners.
So good. I saw his first appearance on Johnny Carson when I was doing research, and I laughed my ass off for 5 minutes.
He's just
so funny.
He's just so good.
Did he do the I would just kill for a Nobel Peace Prize? Was that the guy?
Yes.
Was that him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, he's funny.
Kind of curly hair.
That is him. Yeah. I would kill for Nobel Peace Prize.
He's got so many.
Just a couple others that just I love. When everything's coming your way, you're probably in the wrong lane. It's like, does anybody else think it's wrong that only one company makes the game Monopoly?
Yeah. It's good.
I could go on and
Oh,
on. I mean, the guy,
I love it.
that's my type of humor. So, Bill, thank you so much for this topic, dude.
It's a fun one.
As always, with our top fives, I always have so much fun and enjoy it. So, great job there. Let's move on to Nailed It. I'll give a brief update on our listener part of Nailed It. It continues, and I'm very happy to announce this week's winner. We have another two-time winner. No, Mackenzie actually, she felt bad for the rest of Sandman Nation, so she actually sat out this week. She did not participate. So, but we do have another two-time winner. And I'll say his name in just a minute, but we had our largest turnout in about a month. So
nice.
I'm hoping that we see a late flurry here. We've only got 2 weeks left to qualify for the big Super Bowl edition. This week's winner was Corey Taylor, guy who lives about 2 blocks from me. He will get some Sandman swag in addition to him being able to compete in the Super Bowl edition in a few weeks with the chance for the grand prize and one bitchin' weekend trip with the 3 of us. Reminder to all of our listeners, each week gives new opportunities. So if you haven't played yet, no worries. Join this week, submit your picks. You only have 2 weeks left, though, so do not wait to try and qualify. Go to our website, enter sandmansports.com, click on the Nailed It tab. You'll see all the relevant info, including the link to make this week's picks. Bill, let's get to it. Go.
All right. First ever CFP National Championship. We've already talked about it. Pat's ancestors will face off against Bierman's hated rivals in Atlanta. What will the attendance be for this game? Okay, the quarterfinal held at Mercedes-Benz had 71,105 in attendance. What will the attendance be? 3, 2, 1, send. Bierman, I didn't see anything from you. Oh.
I really was not cheating.
Yeah. At this point, it doesn't matter. At this point, it really does not matter. Bierman, 72,500. Pat, 71,000. Bill, 72,000. All right, that should be just kind of interesting, I think. Okay, in that same game, also, if you weren't aware, there's a $50 squares grid available. You can go to the normal places and find that, or email me. The Buckeyes are currently listed as 8-point favorites, and the over-under is 45.5. How many total points will be scored in the national championship game?
Oops, sorry.
That's
premature.
3, 2, 1, send.
Actually, that's good for me. That's actually good for me.
For you.
I've been taking hymns to work on it. Sorry about that, guys. It was a little early.
Pat, a little premature. That's okay. He's working on it. He's got some prescription meds. 52 points for Pat, 41 for Sanders, 40 for Bierman. Third question. All right, so now let's switch it up to the NFL. We got divisional round matchups. There's only one road team favored, and that's the Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. In the other 3 games, the home team's favored by 8, 10, and 6.5. How many road teams will win this weekend in the NFL? How many road teams out of the 4 games will road teams win? 3, 2, 1, send. Pat, all 4. Ooh, clean sweep. Bierman, 1. Sanders, 2. All right. I'm looking for one tasty upset. Maybe the Rams. I don't know, Bierman. All right.
It's going to be the Texans. We know it's going to be the Texans.
Yeah, it might be the Texans. Mm-hmm. All right. Question number 4. We have 3 outdoor games this weekend and the 1 indoors at Ford Field in Detroit. The weather looks chilly across all 3 stadiums or all 3 cities. What will the coldest temperature be in those 3 cities on Saturday in Kansas City or Sunday, Philly, and Buffalo? Okay. Kansas City's forecasted to be 25 degrees on Saturday. Philly's 38 degrees. Buffalo is 21 degrees. Okay, so either day, what's going to be the coldest temperature in those 3 games? Okay, 3, 2, 1, send.
Ooh.
I had 20 and erased it. So 20.
I had 22 and erased it.
Oh, that's funny. Bierman, 20. Pat, 20. Sanders, 22. All right. Last question. We'll let Pat get out of here. Favorite matchup of the weekend has to be the Baltimore-Buffalo game that we talked about. How many total touchdowns will Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen account for on the ground and through the air? Receiving touchdowns would also count in Philly special or something like that. They get the ball thrown to them. So how many total touchdowns for Lamar and Josh, rushing, throwing, and or receiving? Total touchdowns.
I gotta go.
Out of here.
I gotta run.
Yeah, later, buddy.
Bye.
See you, man. Get up. 3, 2, 1, send. All right. 6 for each of us. Pat 7. He's hoping for a ton of TDs. That's it for Nailed It. Get in there, like Bierman said. 2 weeks left, guys. So get in there and get your guesses entered. Good luck.
This is the first podcast to occur while it's actually been occurring for one of the three hosts to just bolt. So
I'm
there you
out.
go.
He's got to go. He's taking his daughter to somewhere.
Podcast bolt. No, I get it.
Yeah.
So perfect timing, because sadly, it is time to exit Sandman Sports, but it's been another fantastic show. I just would like to remind all of our loyal listeners to check us out on social media, like us, subscribe to us, and tell others about us. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, enter Sandman Sports, and of course, go to our website and enter sandmansports.com. Thanks, everyone. Bill, Pat, who cannot hear me, thank you both for another awesome episode. Peace out, guys. Enjoy the action this weekend.
Good luck, everybody.
See you guys. Bye.